The drama surrounding June 17th didn't start on the court. It began weeks earlier, on May 30th. What was supposed to be a competitive WNBA matchup turned into a war zone where reckless aggression went unchecked, injuries were brushed aside, and justice was left on the floor alongside Sophie Cunningham and Sydney Colson. Jacy Sheldon, the Connecticut Sun guard with a history of crossing the line between aggressive and dangerous, had left a mark, not just on the scoreboard, but on the bodies of her opponents. The Indiana Fever didn't forget. Especially not Caitlin Clark. When Sheldon poked Clark in the eye during the June 17th rematch, it wasn't just a dirty play, it was the final spark that lit the fire. What followed wasn't just a comeback. It was a reckoning. Back on May 30th, the tension between these two teams reached a boiling point. Jacy Sheldon delivered hard hits that didn't just knock players off balance, they took them out of the game entirely. Sophie Cunningham, known for her grit and physical play, went down with an ankle injury after a collision that looked anything but accidental. To make matters worse, Sheldon then tangled up with Sydney Colson in a dive that left Colson's leg twisted and her teammates stunned. Both injuries stemmed from contact initiated by Sheldon, and neither drew a whistle. It wasn't a coincidence. And it wasn't unnoticed. Even the broadcasters couldn't stay quiet. The aggression wasn't just visible, it was reckless. Commentators and fans alike questioned how plays like these could go uncalled. It wasn't just bad basketball, it was dangerous. And the WNBA, with its proud history of physical play, was now being accused of enabling injuries by ignoring clear contact fouls. Paige Buchers, Rakia Jackson, Angel Reese, all recent victims of hard fouls that crossed the line. Caitlin Clark knew that history all too well. And Jacy Sheldon? She wasn't just another opponent. She was a familiar enemy from Clark's Iowa versus Ohio State college days, a defender who made it her mission to get under Clark's skin. That's what made the rematch so personal. Caitlin Clark had just returned from a quad injury. The Fever were fresh off a huge win against the undefeated New York Liberty. And standing across from her again was Jacy Sheldon, still aggressive, still unpunished, still dangerous. From the opening tip on June 17th, it was clear this wasn't just another game. Sheldon played Clark tight, too tight, bumping her off screens, invading her space, and making contact every chance she got. Then came the third quarter. Clark was bringing the ball up the court, laser-focused, when Sheldon lunged forward. What looked like a defensive play turned ugly in a split second. Sheldon's finger jabbed straight into Clark's eye. Clark's head jerked back in pain as the crowd gasped. The refs. Silent. Clark grabbed her face, squinting through the pain, but the emotion in her eyes was undeniable. This wasn't just about a scratch, it was about everything that had come before it. The May 30th injuries. The no-calls. The disregard for player safety. And now, Jacy Sheldon was coming for her, too. Clark did what any human would do. She shoved Sheldon back. It was instinct. It was protection. And it was justified. But what happened next was as infuriating as it was predictable. The referees, who had been blind to the eye poke, suddenly found their whistles. Clark was hit with a technical foul, for defending herself, for pushing back after someone stabbed her in the eye. It was the kind of call that sends the worst possible message. Attack the star, and if she reacts, she's the one who'll pay for it. But Clark wasn't alone. Marina Mabrey saw everything. And in what can only be described as a full-on retaliation mission, Mabrey stormed in and leveled Clark. This wasn't a nudge. This was a hockey-style body check, and Clark went flying backward to the floor. The crowd erupted. The Fever bench exploded. Coach Stephanie White nearly lost her voice trying to get the officials to open their eyes. This wasn't a basketball game anymore. It was a test of who would stand up and protect their teammates when the league wouldn't. And yet somehow, even after a 15-minute review, the referees botched the moment again. Clark's eye poke. Ignored. Her retaliation shove. Still a technical. Mabrey's blindside hit. Just another technical. The fans couldn't believe it. The broadcasters couldn't believe it. Coach White. She made it loud and clear in the postgame. This had been building for weeks, and the league had done nothing to stop it. That's when Sophie Cunningham made her return. With the game in hand, and the Fever up big in the final minute, Jacy Sheldon went for a layup. But Sophie Cunningham wasn't thinking about the score. She was thinking about May 30th, about her own injury, about Colson's twisted leg, about Clark's eye, about the body check, about the silence from the refs. Sheldon wasn't going to get away with it this time. Cunningham sprinted up beside her and delivered a foul so intentional, so perfectly executed, it felt like poetry. She didn't body slam Sheldon. She didn't punch her. But she grabbed her, full force, and pulled her down. A flagrant 2 foul. Automatic ejection. But it didn't matter. The message was sent. Loud and clear. You don't mess with the fever. Sophie Cunningham was ejected. So were Sheldon and Lindsay Allen, after the fight that broke out. But nobody in Indiana cared about ejections. They cared about justice. They cared about loyalty. And they cared about protecting Caitlin Clark. Clark finished with 20 points and 6 assists. Kelsey Mitchell dropped 17. Natasha Howard had her 50th career double-double. The Fever didn't just win the game, they dominated it. 88-71. But the scoreboard wasn't the story. The story was about heart, revenge, and solidarity. This wasn't just about a team reaching its first-ever Commissioner's Cup final. This was about drawing a line in the sand. You hurt one of us, we all respond. And in a league where the officials have repeatedly failed to protect one of its biggest stars, the Fever made it crystal clear they'd protect their own. The crowd chanted Sophie's name. Fans said her jersey would sell out before the night ended. Cunningham wasn't just a player anymore. She was a symbol of everything the Fever stood for: toughness, loyalty, and refusing to let bullies win. For Caitlin Clark, it was more than just a return from injury. It was a statement. For Sophie Cunningham, it was redemption. For the Fever, it was justice. And for the rest of the WNBA, it was a warning. Target Clark again, and you won't just answer to the refs. You'll answer to every woman in that locker room. If you support the Fever, drop a CC and Spicy Sophie in the comments. Like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a moment like this. Because June 17th wasn't just a game. It was the day the Indiana Fever stood up,